I feel bad, but.
Are you in any of these pictures?
I doubt it. Are we all set, commissioners? All right. I'd like to give a moment for everybody to get reconnected here. So here we are in the chambers again after a beautiful Michigan fall weekend. I hope everybody had an opportunity to enjoy that. And I'm here with my colleagues that I very much appreciate here for the business meeting. So I'm going to officially call to order the Kalamazoo City Commission meeting for Monday, October 7th, 2024. Clerk Boylan, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Pradel.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. We do have an opening ceremony this evening, and I'm going to take a point of order here just to jump, I guess, in front of this just at the beginning of the meeting. And I'm sure this is something that everyone's been thinking about. I know that a lot of people are spending time thinking about this in our community, and October 7th carries a special weight for all of us in the world right now. And it's the beginning of a horrific set of events that have landed us in this place again, where we are left to contemplate the great capacity we have as human beings to separate ourselves from each other and to wreak havoc of all kinds on our neighbors. And I guess just in recognition of all that, I know the prayer of everyone that's sitting up here, and I'm sure everyone in our community, is that ultimately progress can be made in this world, that we can treat each other with some respect and decency and goodwill. And that is certainly the effort we try to make here every day in the city of Kalamazoo. For our official opening ceremony here, we are honored to have Friar Buffenberger from the Annunciation Greek Orthodox Church to provide the invocation, and I really appreciate that he's here with us. Here's what I will ask. I'll ask anyone here in the chambers to please stand for the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
God, source and sustainer of all that is, that which is above and that which is below, you who are higher than the greatest height and deeper than our innermost depths, you are one and the source of all oneness, all unity. We who are gathered here ask that you bless us with that unity, those gathered in this room and all those who live in this city of Kalamazoo. We find ourselves in a time of division and strife, a time in which we may be tempted to point the finger of blame, tempted to hard-heartedness, or even to despair. We ask that instead we may be given the strength to grow in humility, in openness, and in hope. May these virtues grow and flourish in this council room and in this city. Give us the grace to cooperate with and partake of the work of unity that begins and ends in you. Bless us, protect us, and have compassion on us, O God, in your grace. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. thank you again, Friar, for being here with us to start off our meeting. We have really something quite special at the beginning of our agenda here, and I think it's all the more special because we have many family members here from the family of Lance Ferraro. And Commissioner Cooney, did you serve with Lance Ferraro? No. No, prior to your... Okay. Lance spent time sitting up here and contributing to this community that he loved, longtime resident from this seat as well. So we appreciate him, we appreciate his legacy, and we are so happy to have guests here with us this evening from Lance's family. So I will turn it over. Yes, go ahead. DCM Chamberlain.
Yeah, Mayor, you nailed it. Lance Ferraro was not only a city commissioner here, it served 3 terms with the Kalamazoo City Commission. I actually did have the privilege of serving with him when I very first started working for the city of Kalamazoo, and it was a true honor. But what many of us remember Lance for was his photography. And he had a photography studio here in Kalamazoo, and he took thousands and thousands of pictures, of which one was nearly 64 years ago today when then Senator John F. Kennedy was here at a campaign stop for his presidential run. I would like to invite the Ferraro family to come on up here. We've got a number of folks from the Ferraro family. They have been so kind in that as they were going through the numerous photographs, that there were 4 photographs of John F. Kennedy here in Kalamazoo, and they are gifting them to the city of Kalamazoo. So 2 of them are photographs of then Senator Kennedy on the steps of City Hall, and 2 at the train station. And so we plan on exhibiting the 2 from City Hall here in City Hall and giving 2 of them over to the train station so they can be displayed there. So with that, I would like to introduce Sharon Ferraro, who was the city's historic preservation coordinator and former Commissioner Lance Ferraro's daughter.
Welcome, Sharon. Good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to see how many of you folks I know and have worked with over the years when I was working for the city. If this was about 30 years ago, my dad would have been sitting about where Chris is because he served 3 separate terms on the city commission, which is pretty darn good for someone who dropped out of school in 9th grade, was a lab tech with the cortisone production team at the Upjohn Company for many years, the official photographer for the Civic Theater. They actually took one of the dressing rooms and turned it into a dark room for him. And then he loved photography so much that he was just taking pictures. And these photos were taken before he had an official studio. He was available for weddings and that kind of thing, but he didn't have a studio yet. The studio in the basement of our home would come about 4 years later. So he just got out there one day with his camera, and it was not the wonderful convenience we have today of everybody's got one in our pockets. It was a camera with film and slides. It wasn't even roll film that he shot that day. And he got out there and took pictures of this because he was a very strong Kennedy supporter, and he knew this was going to be a momentous event, and so he had to be there for this. After John Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, he took the photos and put them together in a book, which, I don't know, did Jeff put them up there for you already? Yep. Okay. And sold them. Did not make a huge amount of money, but it's a real record of just that day in Kalamazoo, those few hours. We had 3 other presidents that came here. Only one was a sitting president, and that was Taft. He came when the Burdick Hotel was rededicated after the fire burned it down in 1909. Bill Clinton was here campaigning, but John Kennedy was here campaigning, and Abraham Lincoln made his only visit to the state of Michigan when he was campaigning for Fremont in 1856. So we haven't had a lot of presidents here, but I think that especially the photograph here of John Kennedy standing under the 241 West South street number on the front entrance is really telling for us. So we're happy that these are going to be with the city where they belong. I'm thrilled. I hadn't thought of the idea of putting two of them at the train station, but that's a great idea too. I love that. And I'm glad they're going to be here representing our history. And my dad would be just bursting with pride if he was here today. So thank you very much for this honor.
Thank you very much. Speaking of pictures, are we going to take a picture of the family? Has that
Sure. Oh, we grab
in the chambers here some way or another?
Okay.
Is there?
There's a lot of us. So we're going to empty out chambers. You'll know that everybody else that's staying is serious. Sure. Perfect.
So who's got the, oh,
Might have to come further. Okay.
Go back further.
Is that going to work? Want to stand up, Commissioner?
yep.
Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate the donation. Yes, thanks, Sharon. Take care for ours.
Take care of our city, okay?
We'll try our best. Thank you, DCM Chamberlain. I appreciate that. Well, we have 3 proclamations this evening. They're in your agenda. The first proclamation is Ageism Awareness Day. And are folks here to, yes, please come forward to the dais here. I'll come down. The proclamation is going to be read by Vice Mayor Hess.
Thank you, Mayor, and welcome. I'm just really happy that this is coming out today. Ageism Awareness Day is not till October 9th, but Milestone Senior Services does amazing things in our city, so I just want to extend my gratitude. Ageism Awareness Day, October 9th, 2024. Whereas ageism refers to the stereotypes, how we think, prejudice, how we feel, and discrimination, how we act, toward others based on their age. And whereas there are an estimated 25% of older adults in Kalamazoo older than the age of 60 who are impacted by ageism, and whereas ageism toward older adults affects their health and longevity, financial well-being, and the economy of Kalamazoo. And whereas, excuse me. And whereas preventing ageism in education, employment, housing, culture, and healthcare will benefit all, and
teamwork makes the dream work around here. Whereas recognizing that it is up to all of us to ensure that older adults are respected and portrayed as capable, competent, effective, and valued in all areas of society. And whereas ageism awareness and preventing ageism is beneficial to all citizens of Kalamazoo by improving quality of life within Kalamazoo. Now therefore, Vice Mayor Gene Hess, on behalf of the 55th City Commission, and David F. Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, do hereby proclaim October 9th, 2024 as Ageism Awareness Day in the City of Kalamazoo.
Really quick, can I get a picture with you? I want to thank Vice Mayor Hess and Mayor Anderson for considering this proclamation. I have worked with vulnerable older adults and disabled adults for the last 10 years of my career, and it is truly what fills my cup. It is what fills my passion. Milestone Senior Services does just that. I'd like to share a couple of statistics with you. People with a positive view on aging live on average 7.5 years longer. People 60 years and older who experience ageism are more likely to have poor mental health. There is a lack of healthcare treatment in relation to symptoms being viewed as part of aging. In a 2020 poll found 82% of adults 50 to 80 years of age experience ageism daily. I plan to continue to raise awareness in regards to ageism to ensure that every individual is treated equally and that they are receiving the care that they need. This proclamation to recognize Ageism Awareness Day is just the very beginning. Anyone who would like to continue to support that, please, on your social media, on October 9th, use the hashtag Ageism Awareness Day. Thank you again for this consideration and this proclamation.
All right, our next proclamation is Imagine a Day Without Water, October 17th, 2024, and I think Director Baker is coming up here. We also, I believe, have something special going on October 17th, so it's not a coincidence that that's the same day as well. Whereas the 10th Annual National Day of Advocacy, Imagine a Day Without Water, is being held on October 17th, 2024, it is an organized effort to educate the public about why water is essential and invaluable resource, highlighting the critical importance of access to reliable, clean water and the need for water infrastructure investments necessary to maintain and rebuild these vital systems. And whereas the infrastructure that brings Greater Kalamazoo area residents an average of 80 gallons of water per person per day, and then safely returns water to the environment is essential to the quality of life, environment, and economic vitality of the city of Kalamazoo. And whereas a day without water would be a public health and safety crisis due to the impacts which would limit the abilities of safe personnel such as firefighters and hospital staff to do their jobs, as well as businesses and homes to function. And whereas America's water infrastructure is aging and failing, and there are communities that have never had access to infrastructure in the first place. And whereas our water infrastructure is necessary to a thriving economy and public health protection, but is facing unprecedented challenges. And whereas valuing and investing in water systems provide a path to economic recovery now. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 55th City Commission and Mayor David F. Anderson, City of Kalamazoo, does hereby recognize water as essential to the quality of life and economic competitiveness, and acknowledge the importance of educating the public about the value of water through the Imagine a Day Without Water campaign. Let it be further known that the City of Kalamazoo is dedicated to investing in safe and reliable water and wastewater infrastructure, and calls on federal partners to bring much needed funding and innovation to protect and restore our critical water infrastructure.
Thank you. We'd like to welcome the community to join us as we celebrate this day, and we celebrate the accomplishment of 5,000 lead service lines replaced this year, and to kick off a project in the Edison neighborhood to begin another 1,300 replacements beginning in 2025. That's October 17th at 5 p.m. at the Edison Neighborhood Association on Washington Avenue. So please come out and join us. There'll be free food and a free t-shirt to celebrate the 5,000th lead service line replacement. We thank you very much. This is all made possible by a whole lot of resources, a whole lot of contribution, and a whole lot of dedication by the City Commission, City Manager. We thank you for your leadership and the support that we have as a water utility to get this work done. Thank you.
So speaking from down here, I know all of us feel this way. I feel this way. I want to make sure, just to say this, this gentleman is one of our heroes right here. Thank you. Even more so, and I think we often forget about this, around the clock, someone on Mr. Baker's team is working to make sure that systems providing water and taking care of our wastewater are being addressed. So thank you to your whole team. Please make sure that our gratitude is communicated to everyone in public services. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this is a proclamation for Juvenile Justice Awareness Month. Whereas Juvenile Justice Awareness Month, observed from October 1st to 31st, shines a light on the critical issues faced by youth entangled in the juvenile justice system, recognizing the urgent need for reform and the promotion of rehabilitation over punishment. And whereas this month-long observance aims to raise public awareness through educational campaigns, community events, and advocacy efforts that highlight the importance of providing support and resources to at-risk youth, ensuring they have the opportunity to thrive and break free from the cycle of incarceration. And whereas Juvenile Justice Awareness Month calls upon communities, organizations, and policymakers to work together towards creating a more just and equitable system that prioritizes the well-being and potential of every young person. And whereas Bent Not Broken is dedicated to the empowerment and support of youth impacted by the juvenile justice system, recognizing the immense potential and resilience within each individual youth. And whereas Bent Not Broken provides a safe and nurturing environment for youth to engage in peer coaching, leadership development, and community building activities. And whereas the organization is committed to fostering a sense of agency and self-worth among its participants, ensuring that every youth feels heard, valued, and supported. And whereas the youth of Bent Not Broken actively participate in the creation and implementation of programs, taking ownership of their personal and collective growth. And whereas Bent Not Broken staff and board members, many of whom have been directly impacted by the criminal legal justice system, bring invaluable perspectives and experiences that enhance the organization's mission. And whereas Bent Not Broken has demonstrated a commitment to continuous improvement using pre-tests and protests to measure the effectiveness of its programs in empowering youth and supporting staff. And whereas Bent Not Broken seeks to break the cycle of incarceration and build a brighter future for its participants through education, mentorship, and advocacy, and shall continue its mission with unwavering dedication, striving to uplift and empower every youth it serves, and to create a more just and equitable society for all. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 55th City Commission, David Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, we hereby proclaim October 1st, 31st, 2024 as Juvenile Justice Awareness Month in the City of Kalamazoo.
On behalf of Bent Not Broken, we are deeply honored to accept this proclamation, recognizing our commitment to empowering youth impacted by the juvenile justice system. This acknowledgement strengthens our resolve to continue advocating for meaningful reform and positive change. Thank you all.
No, it don't matter. Whatever's convenient. Here. Here. So ready, ready.
Let's put the baby in the front.
DJ, watch out behind you.
Oh, wait.
Oh, dang, you ain't hold it in.
Oh, my bad.
Can you take another one and holding it up, please? Sorry.
You want right here, one more.
You know I'm a singer, bro.
10's the limit.
10's the limit. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh.
Oh, one more, guys.
Yeah, because he got to take care of it. He got to take care of it.
10 was the limit. 10.
All right.
Everybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I appreciate all the great work that's happening in Kalamazoo, and this is just a small part that we do to recognize that. We have had some discussion recently about how many proclamations we're going to have at every one of our meetings, and I could tell you in a city like Kalamazoo, it would be possible to have many. There's so many people doing great work. I really appreciate the efforts of everyone we've recognized this evening. We are now down to the point on our agenda for the adoption of the formal agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on G, the consent agenda, that you would like to have moved to the regular agenda? Thank you. Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience who would like to move any items from the consent agenda, G, to the regular agenda? G9, I'm sorry I didn't catch the other one. 15. 16. 9 and 16 will be removed from the consent agenda and moved to the regular agenda. Thank you. Next is communications. Manager Ritzma.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Now is an opportunity for public comments for our business meeting. Just a reminder, public comment period is limited to 3 minutes. It is not a time for dialogue. It's a time for you to share anything that you are concerned about or feel positive about with the City Commission. So please come forward, and when you come up, please state your name and whether you live in the city. Thank you.
Good evening, Toby Hannah Davies, and I do live in the city. I was very glad at the Economic Development Strategies presentation earlier that they mentioned there are many parcels available for development. They call them strategic parcels or underutilized or brownfield redevelopment. I'm hoping that you all will begin to think of landlocked as a really positive thing. What that means is that we are not gobbling up green space to develop. We are not gobbling up natural areas, agricultural areas, habitat, but that we're focusing on all the places where there could be infill, which our staff's already good at, but there's so much more that could be done. Or we're focusing on all the defunct businesses back from when businesses were developed along the railroad tracks when that was the place to be. We have so many parcels like that. So please know, landlock's a good thing. I also was glad that they talked about the metrics for new housing units built. But I want you to ask all of you to make the metrics more specific. We need metrics that just aren't the number of housing units built, but what level of income, what level of AMI they're built for. The Upjohn Institute did a study for the county in 2021 saying what the need was, and the county asked them to update it this year. I'm not sure if it's done yet, but it should be able to show us where we're matching the need with the housing that we're building all over the county. We really need mixed income housing in all different parts of the county. And I hope that it will show us not just 80% of area median income, which is the lowest probably that market rate housing developers can do, private developers, but 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, and even 20% of AMI, which some people are trying to live on with disabilities and other issues. Please think of that as the kind of metrics we need for housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, this isn't a time for that. I appreciate the support, but I just want to make sure that everybody who comes to speak doesn't feel judged one way or another, so I would ask people obviously not to boo or clap. Well, this is just your opportunity to express your own feelings. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Montoya Sims, and I'm here to talk about the racketeering activity, public corruption, and conflict of interest, also ethnic intimidation from our local elected officials, Jeffrey Giddings to be one, Pamela Lightboat as well. They're violating African Americans and many other Michigan residents' constitutional rights by telling them they can't speak in court to defend themselves. They won't allow them to represent themselves as well. I have video evidence and documentation evidence showing that they're falsifying court documentation and many other things. I've made complaints to the city hall. I've made complaints to the police departments, and in return, I'm getting ethnic intimidation. I have many video evidence of officers from KDPS planting drugs on individuals, pulling people out of their cars at routine traffic stops instead of giving them a ticket and searching their cars. And they're doing a lot of this stuff in our court system. So we need resources or places that we can go to that's not funded by our prosecuting office, because the public defenders are also a conflict of interest to the individuals who they're representing in court, because they are being funded by the prosecuting office. All of the public defenders are waiving preliminary exams, knowing that that's the most critical stage at any criminal case that is being presented to the court. On top of that, because I have all of this evidence, they right now are trying to kidnap me. They have documentation stating that I am a habitual offender. I don't even have a criminal record. And the judge is refusing to allow me to speak. She's refusing to allow me to represent myself. I've been doing law for 6.5 years in criminal and civil court, where I have an order from Judge Elizabeth Gletcher stating all of my claims are apparent for racketeering activity, public corruption, and many other things. And this city, the individuals that I come to, that we're supposed to advocate to or talk to about these problems so that they can be properly investigated, they have been bribed and paid off by our prosecuting office, who I have videos of Jeffrey Giddings admitting that they're defrauding the local government system by dragging me through these unconstitutional trials and hearings with no evidence to prove that I committed any type of crime. And this is only being done in retaliation to the order that I have. And I'm here to speak about it because, as I stated, I made complaints to this commission as well, the city hall, and what they did was prolong the investigation and then deny it at the end with no laws or policy, rules, or regulations of how it even is adjusted. So my thing that I feel like the commissioner needs to do is don't sit so high above that you fail to listen to the voices below, because we're going through things, and then people who are in these positions to even advocate or investigate these type of things, they are being paid off, and they are being put in the positions to where after the investigator does their job, the person who signs off on the investigation, they are the ones who are denying it, and they're the ones who are the conflict of interest. So there needs to be different departments in Kalamazoo, Michigan that residents can go to be able to get assistance, because we're not getting it. And as I stated, I am being...
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Tristan, and I'm a lifelong Kalamazoo resident. I am a housing rights advocate and tenant union organizer. Currently, 60% of Kalamazoo residents are renters, and 60% of Kalamazoo renters are spending more than 60% of their monthly income on rent alone. That amounts to 25,000 working-class people who are drastically overburdened and barely scraping by. 25,000 Kalamazoo City residents who are one bad week away from losing everything. I have reviewed the city's recent economic development strategy, and while the tone is delightfully liberal, the content may as well have been written by a Reagan-era Republican. 32 pages of ideas for how Kalamazoo can attract new business owners and entrepreneurs to supposedly, quote, expand the wealth of our city, but what it really means is to expand the wealth of the business owners and entrepreneurs who run our city. If it is the job of the city to provide resources, legislation, and economic systems to support the interests of business development, is it not the city's responsibility to do the same for the workers upon whose labor those businesses rely and by whose patronage those businesses remain profitable? When we go to our city for economic assistance, we are told repeatedly that resources simply do not exist due to, quote, lack of funding. A city is funded by taxes. But in the proposed economic strategy, the only reference to taxation whatsoever refers to the expansion of tax revenue via the, quote, creation of new jobs, implying that the city's plan for expanding tax revenue rests solely on the taxation of income for workers and the further taxation of sales on commodities likewise paid for by working class consumers. So the burden of our city's lack of funding is placed once again on the backs of the people most in need of that funding to begin with. There are people living in this city with 100 times greater wealth than all those 25,000 renters combined, existing wealth that could serve the people of this city in ways far more substantial than any proposed trickle-down economic strategy ever could. If city, quote, leadership is unwilling to force those in the top 10% to start contributing more and begin offering economic solutions that directly improve the lives of the people, then the people deserve new leadership.
Thank you. So I'm just going to kindly ask one more time. I want this to be a safe space for people to express their feelings, whether you happen to agree with that person or not. So I'm just going to ask, because it wouldn't feel good if you came and people booed or yelled at you when you were speaking. So I'm just going to ask, please don't treat it like that. Just it's an opportunity for a neutral space to express how you feel. I kindly request. Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eugene Simpson. I'm the Secretary of the Southwest Michigan chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. First of all, on a positive note, I'd like to thank the City Commission for contributing $1.2 million towards converting the Holiday Inn into a homeless shelter for families. This project will provide a welcome relief for many families in our community, so I would like to thank you first of all. This Halloween, housing activists in Kalamazoo, including Southwest Michigan DSA, are proud to launch the Housing Horror Stories Survey to document housing issues working class people in the county and city are facing. This survey, which can be completed at southwestmichigandsa.com/horror, that's SWMIDSA.com/horror, aims to gather the horror stories from non-property owners across Kalamazoo County. We want to hear about people's rent increases, unsafe housing, and illegal actions from landlords and property managers. Kalamazoo's housing situation grows worse every day, and we really hope to understand the problem directly from the people it most affects. And we also know that many renters in our community in this city don't feel represented by the City Commission, and that's simply because most of you, if not all of you, are property owners. You're not renters. You don't feel the squeeze felt by renters across this fair city. In fact, some of you are landlords yourself, and you profit directly from this horrifying status quo that exploits renters, that jacks up rents, that throws families out into the streets when they can no longer pay, that forces those families to go into shelters which the city pays for. We really hope that this survey and the survey results will offer this commission a new, unfiltered perspective directly from their constituents. And we encourage renters from across Kalamazoo County to complete the survey at SWMIDSA.com/horror. you'll find a press release there as well. Thank you very much. I'm going to spend my next minute admiring these beautiful photos of JFK. Wonderful. Never knew you came to Kalamazoo. Fantastic history. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Tina. I live in Kalamazoo. I live on Lake Street. I live next to our last natural green space, Lake to Stockbridge. I'm also from Kalamazoo. I'm not like your developer friends. I actually live in Kalamazoo, in a poor neighborhood, south side of town, Southtown neighborhood. I've owned my home for 36 years and now live in a known floodplain area that thanks to the city for destroying 12 acres of natural green space on Lake to Crosstown to build KVCC growing field, Valley Hub, whichever one you want to call it. Ever since you destroyed 12 acres in 2017, we now flood 2 to 3 times a year every year, unless we are in a drought. And thank God for when we are in a drought, for we do not flood. We do not get trapped for days by flooding water in the streets or standing water in the streets. See, the storm drains in the city of Kalamazoo flood out the whole neighborhood and back up the city storm sewers into the streets and into the groundwater. Isn't that where our city of Kalamazoo gets our drinking water from for its residents, is groundwater? I'm not sure about that, but that's what I think. It's been 7 years I have been coming here calling at every city commission meeting to ask you to fix these issues and not to take away our last natural green space to build your Hawthorne projects, Mr. Anderson. For you and Lift and Lockhart management can build at the DHS building right across the street from our last natural green space and not cause your residents in a already poor neighborhood more flooding issues. And now we've lost another business in my neighborhood. Smokes on Verdict is closing because of the flooding issues that we'll never fix and because of the construction. It has made John and Jody close their business. They cared about their business and they kept their business up. Not like the business building next to them, for it is a mess in the backyard of it. Your storm drains and sewer, fixing the issues, storm drains, storm sewers, and sanitary sewers, they flood and they have been flooding for years. I've seen a lot of money stirred away fixing things that are not broken, and it's time to fix the things that are broken. And you always fix the things in the chosen neighborhood and not in the other. For we come here to speak about our concerns. Kalamazoo needs to go back to caring about all the residents, not just those with money. It should not be about who has money and who don't. It should be about doing the right thing for all the residents, fixing things that the city should have fixed years ago. Bring back phone calls. The last meeting, there was an older couple. They could barely walk in here. If they could have just called, they would not have had to come all the way down here to speak the piece about the crime in their neighborhood. And another thing, your rent is so high in Kalamazoo, people can't afford to live, even working 2 jobs. Crime is out of control, because Kalamazoo is not a very...
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Scott. I've been a Kalamazoo resident since 2017, and I just wanted to take a second to talk about bike lane enforcement tonight. So thank you for telling folks not to boo. I suspect I might have an unpopular opinion on bike lanes. I like them a lot. Just to give you a little background, I do my best to ride my bike to work. These days I can ride my bike with my son, drop him off at school. We had recently had to put a bullet in our car. Car culture is very expensive, so before anybody says there's some elite cyclist agenda here, I live paycheck to paycheck, and I really appreciate what the city's doing with the protected bike lanes. Having said that, I love the bike lanes, but it kills me to hear on social media when people start saying, well, I never see people using the bike lanes, or worse yet, I drive in the bike lanes more than bikes do. Well, I kind of want to connect the dots for folks. Maybe they're connected. Recently, after a photo of 2 trucks parked in the bike lane out here was shared on social media, a young mom posted how there's clearly a need for a safe way to get around downtown with kids efficiently. They roam around downtown almost every day, playground, bakeries, ice cream, coffee, lunch, dance class. However, I recently found myself trying to avoid the biking boulevard to go through alleys, smaller streets. 95% of the time I choose the bike boulevard, there's a huge vehicle parked in my way with people unloading stuff in the bike lane. I had a vehicle backing up into my kid's face once with the driver yelling at me to get out of his way in the bike lane. What's the big deal, right? Indeed, what's the big deal? Well, I would encourage anyone out there to Google Lily Shambrook, Chicago Bike Lane. That's LILYSHAMBROOK, Chicago Bike Lane. They're a little bit ahead of where we are on bike lanes, and it's a horrific case. I'll spare you the gory details, but an adorable 3-year-old little girl was killed in the bike lane because a truck was parked there. Now the truck that passed them is on the hook in a huge lawsuit. The driver's on the hook in a big lawsuit. The truck that was parked in the bike lane is on the hook. The company's on the hook in a big lawsuit. And the city of Chicago is facing a big lawsuit over this. I guess I just really encourage you to maybe start enforcing some of the no driving, parking the bike lanes. If anyone wants to see it, I have dozens of pictures of people driving and parking in the protected bike lanes around here. And I still appreciate them. They're safer than some of the other bike lanes. And like I said, I biked for work. A lot of people around here really appreciate what you're doing with the bike lanes. And I guess my final question would be what enforcement might look like with, if you are going to enforce it. I understand there's just going to be a warning, and then it could possibly be a misdemeanor. So what specifically does that look like, and the enforcement? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, please.
So when is the city going to start caring about safety? We just had a young man that died from being hit by an SUV when he was riding his bike out in Ashimo. Where is the safety to our bike riders? Where is the safety to our unhoused? Where is the safety to Kalamazoo, period? Like, there is no safety. It's all about development, development, development. What is development getting us? Is it getting the housing that we need? Is it making sure our unhoused is taken care of? Is it making sure that our youth that are out on the street, that have been on the street for a long period of time, is that making sure that they're housed? Is that making sure that those that are out here unprotected are safe? It's not. You guys need to come out and see what's really going on. There's a lot going on. Our youth are out here unhoused with their families. There's some out here that's been out here for a year plus. Imagine them going to school and knowing that they have to go home and be unhoused. And even if they was in the mission and they get out of school, 2:20, 4 o'clock, they're outside for another 3 hours. How are they supposed to focus? How are they supposed to do schoolwork? What are they supposed to do? When they come to school tired and they have no sleep because they're up all night because they're out on the street, or they're out because they can't be at the mission, or they're out during the day. What are they supposed to do to make sure they're safe? Their needs are getting met. They're getting housing. Their mental needs are being taken care of. What is this commission doing? Why aren't you guys out here helping? There's so many orgs out here every single day making sure that their needs are being met. And it's coming out our pocket and pockets of those that are citizens of this county. We need you guys out here and seeing what is going on and making sure that it's taken care of. And not developing things that the stadium or having these sweeps happen. Sweeps make people displaced. Not only adults, but children. The children are important as long also the adults. But you guys doing these sweeps are not making sure that there's housing. Rent is too damn high for anybody that's living on these paychecks that we are getting. Rent is too high. Sit with these orgs. Talk to them. We shouldn't have to come here every single week. Our babies are suffering. Come out here and see what's going on. We're at North Burdick tomorrow at 5:30, across from the drop-in center. Bring some food. Bring some supplies. Bring some blankets, bring some winter gear. Just come up and show us that you care and you want to be out here, because that's where we'll be at tomorrow.
Thank you. Next, please.
I have some documents. Hi, my name is Chase Platty. I'm a lifetime resident of Kalamazoo, and I am also going to be speaking about the treatment of homeless people in this city. We know that this criminalization of our houseless population is not new, and it has been happening for years, but it's increasing in frequency, and it's being endorsed and encouraged by the most powerful in the city and ignored by most others. This treatment of our community members cannot continue to be ignored. The number of homeless individuals keeps rising because there's not enough housing in the city. There's not enough housing for 0 to 30% AMI, or even 40 or 50% AMI cannot afford housing in the city. There's continuing to be criminalization, such as harassment, displacement, citations, and arrests, and theft of the personal property of homeless people who are vulnerable and have no other choice but to be outside. They have nowhere else to go. This treatment and criminalization, such as the examples that you are looking at right now of people's property being threatened to be collected by Kalamazoo Gospel Mission and by Ministry with Community. This has been endorsed by KDPS and the community service team and Officer Mary Miller. Instead of criminalization, which is cruel and it doesn't work or help anyone in the community, it's a waste of our taxpayer money and time and resources. The city needs to create actual solutions that help people who have nothing else to help them. Use the buildings already owned by the land bank and use the resources that this city has at its disposal, and stop pretending that there are no options and that there are no solutions and nothing that can be done. The solutions need to be proposed that are drastic to match the drastic situation that people are facing in this city. Most people cannot afford a place to live, and this situation is going to continue to get worse and worse until something is done about it. We need housing, and we need you to stop using our last natural green spaces in this city for developments that are expensive and unnecessary, such as the new stadium, such as developing and privatizing Arcadia, such as the new farmers market building. These are expenses that are developments to help people who already have wealth, who already have riches. They're not to help everyday people in Kalamazoo, people who are working every day to provide for their families and to have somewhere safe to stay. There are 1,500 homeless students in KPS alone, in Kalamazoo Public Schools. This means that this city is not doing enough to address this issue and to bring these numbers down by giving kids places to live.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Kay. I'm from We the People, Kalamazoo, and I just want to remind you all that 3 years ago today, Ampersand and stadium camps were evicted in coordination with KDPS and the COC, and apparently the City Commission was not aware, and over 300 people were displaced. I want you all to know that we haven't come far from that at all. If nothing, we haven't moved from that situation except for people being continuously displaced still. It's clear with the Economic Development Strategy Report that it is a lens for downtown, and it is for that's the focus, right? We're looking at the city from that sense instead of looking at the city from the homelessness crisis, from the actual housing crisis, and how we're going to help the people at the very bottom, right, at the poverty level and the Alice community. With this launch of the horror stories, we're hoping to get stories from different people that are renters so that you all can be aware of the systemic situation that exists. The Alice statistics prove that the BIPOC community is being left behind, and it's really, the report to me was very colorblindly racist, to think that, like, for example, financial literacy will help break the cycle of poverty, as it states in Section 3, advance for growth, that it will reduce economic inequalities when the conditions and barriers that are systemically racist still exist and are being actively ignored in this report to further enrich white affluent people. Okay, we're ignoring the fact that we've had a gap of disenfranchisement, Jim Crow, slavery, all these real situations that have created a gap that we must drastically fill before we can move on and say that we are going to offer Black and brown people entrepreneurship. It's not enough, right? Personally, me, I am not content with seeing 200 maybe Black, brown people succeed, because I want to see us all succeed. That's equality, when we're all have the access to what this report is saying, and not everybody has access to. They're paying 60% of their income in rent. What wealth? Wealth is not being built. This was not considering, and it did not have an in-depth analysis of the ALICE statistics as they stand in the city, okay? Because none of this is going to systemically change anything, but it compels gentrification. That's what that report is doing, because we're not focusing enough resources to help people actually out of it. We're just hoping that it all trickles down, right, and benefits, when it's not. It's not trickling down per the ALICE statistic.
Thank you. Next, please. All right, seeing no one, I want to thank everyone that took the time and made the effort to come to this commission meeting and provide us with public comments. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Manager Isma.
First item is approval of a one-year contract extension with EnviroSuite for the lease of odor monitoring, weather monitoring, and modeling software in the amount of $132,708. Next is the approval of a supplemental and change order to the contract with SWT Excavating for the emergency replacement of the Westnedge Core sanitary sewer in the amount of $137,128.79. Next is the approval of a professional service agreement with the Foster Group to finalize development of the 2025 wastewater rates and to provide a platform for ongoing wastewater rate development in the amount of $140,000. Next is the approval of a contract with Trace Analytical Laboratories Incorporated for drinking water and wastewater analytical testing services in the amount of $151,092.06. Next is the approval of a contract with Severance Electric for the purchase of traffic signal mast arms and poles in the amount of $163,152.40. Next is the approval of a supplemental and change order to the contract with Rathco Safety Supply Incorporated for the rental of traffic controller devices in the amount of $170,000. Next is the approval of the purchase of a John Deere backhoe from AIS Construction Equipment Corporation through the MyDeal Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount of $179,652. Next is the approval of a supplemental and change order to the contract with CD Arena LLC for additional public sewer in Water Street in the amount of $184,315.26. Next is the approval of a contract with Corby Energy Services through the Omnia Partners Cooperative Purchasing Program for the cast-in-place pipelining of the Patterson Street storm sewer in the amount of $332,700, and approval of a budget amendment in the amount of $500,000 to cover the total cost. Next is the approval of a professional services agreement with Intersect Studio for design, engineering, and construction management services for the Crosstown Facility renovation project in the amount of $563,120. Next is the adoption of a resolution approving changes to the social district hours of operation to be 10 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Next is the adoption of resolutions approving changes in the street lighting contract with Consumers Energy for the Michikel project. Next is the approval of a maintenance agreement with CD Arena LLC for the maintenance of the Arcadia Creek from Westnedge Avenue to Park Street. Next is the approval of a marketing agreement with Service Line Warranties of America to offer property owners the opportunity to purchase a service line warranty program for private sewer laterals, private water services, and internal plumbing and drainage.
Thank you very much, Manager Isma. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 8 and 10 through 15 and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Decker. Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes, abstaining from G18 and 14 due to a conflict of interest with my employer.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The items on the consent agenda are approved. Next is the regular agenda. Manager Ritzma.
Item H1 is adoption of an ordinance to amend Chapter 36, Article 10, to add new Section 36-290, pedestrians in work zone areas.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Is there any intended presentation on this item?
No, Your Honor. The presentation was given at the last work session and a mini presentation during the first reading of the ordinance.
Okay. So just to thank you, Attorney Leal. Just as a reminder, every time there is an ordinance approved in the City of Kalamazoo, it comes to agenda twice. There was an initial opportunity to discuss this at our previous agenda, and now we're here for action. Any questions, Commissioners, for the Attorney? Yeah, Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. So in certain instances, there are roads, like Wrights Road being one of them, that doesn't have proper shoulders. There are segments of the sidewalk that are closed down. And then the only option for safe travel is those construction areas, or at least that's what people have been utilizing. I'm wondering, in cases like those where there's no convenient sidewalk or shoulder available, what should pedestrians do? You know, like I ride my bike every day, and that's one of the places that I kind of have some confusion, so I just avoid.
I don't want to speak for KDPS because they're the ones charged with enforcing this particular provision, but in these kinds of cases where there is no location where they can walk in that area, I mean, the obvious is always to pick a different detour where you might be able to get through the construction, but in that kind of a case, you know, it'll be up to the officer's discretion as to how they want to handle that situation, because every officer doesn't immediately have to give a citation for an offense. It's you know, they do listen to the situation and make a call based on their discretion. So in that case, an officer would probably not do anything, but probably ask them to maybe find a future or an alternate route in the future. If the chief has any different ideas, but okay, I got the thumbs up. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of what I was going for, is, you know, our officers using that discretion, but also our public services team and construction teams kind of being mindful of that when we're shutting off, you know, certain access to sidewalks and shoulders. Thank you.
Important. Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. I appreciate that. Any more questions from the Commission? Seeing now is the opportunity for anybody who's here in the chambers who'd like to comment on this item H1.
My name is Elizabeth Washington. I am the Executive Director for the Northside Association for Community Development, and just wanting to echo Commissioner Wilson's comments. Ransom Street is a huge issue right now, and if I wanted to walk across the street to Park Street to get my lunch, which I did today, can do a civil infraction to do so. Otherwise, I would have had to walk 3 blocks to avoid the construction zone, which would have eaten into my lunch hour and anything else. It is not just my issue, it is all around the neighborhood. So I just want to echo those same concerns and recognize and hope that the enforcement of that is tracked and looked at, and make sure it's not disproportionately hurting some places other than others. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, please.
I just want to reiterate, thank you so much, Commissioner Wilson, for bringing this point up, and I want to reiterate what is being said. KDPS is evil, and I know some of you all have your hopes on that police reform could happen, but the OIR report was very clear when it came to the broken relationship between the BIPOC community and the police. And ordinances like this, amendments like this, in situations where people literally depend on the stores that are around them, and then like when the businesses came, they said that their employees couldn't even get to work. So when we give KDPS this much power and discretion, I want to tell you that the statistics show that they're not going to give that discretion to Black, Brown, Indigenous people. And especially when it comes to homelessness, homeless people have to walk a lot, miles and miles to get to food, services, whatever it is. And I'm telling you, walking that extra mile around something is sometimes it's not doable. Sometimes there's no time. And you're talking about a community that already is struggling with an environmental crisis. We're talking about a community who is predominantly renters, overburdened renters, working 2 or 3 jobs. And to me, this seems very blatant when I see all of your reports for the economic development downtown, and I see all the progress that is supposedly being made downtown. It feels like a blatant push. It feels like a blatant push to further criminalize people. I mean, you're about to move 3 railroads downtown, right? Isn't that the plan eventually? You're closing off random streets for no reason. Like, to me, this just seems very blatant, and I'm telling you right now that what you think is going to happen, the discretion that you think KDPS is going to have is not going to happen. It's a further push for criminalization, and I can guarantee that based on the OIR report, based on the 2013 traffic study, that nothing was done to fix these issues, which I know that was a traffic study, but nonetheless, it showed the disparity. I'm telling you right now that you're giving KDPS the power to further criminalize homeless people, Black people, brown people who live in the outskirts of these areas that y'all want to improve. That's the problem. That when it comes down to developing downtown, it seems like the real working class is just an inconvenience for your plans. That's what it relates to. I'm out in the streets downtown almost every day, so I know I've had to go around things, and that's okay because I have a car. I can drive around. But I'm telling you, for people who walk every single day, this is a blatant criminalization.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, I would just like to agree with my community members that this criminalization of pedestrians in work zone areas, it's not good policy. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to fix any issues. It's not going to help. It's not going to help people not cross through places that they need to go. If you're worried about people walking through construction zones, make construction zone placing smarter so that people don't have to walk around so far. It is not a solution to give police the discretion to cite anyone when they feel like it, and give them the authority to have this policy to say that they can criminalize someone for doing something that didn't really have a bad consequence for walking in a construction zone. So there are way better issues to address the issue of too many construction zones or not having somewhere to walk. And I agree with your question, Commissioner Wilson, that it is extremely inconvenient to just normal everyday people who are walking, who are biking, who are trying to get to work, who are trying to get food, go to the grocery store, take their kids somewhere. Like, this is an easy no, commissioners. This is an easy no. Easy no. So, yeah, please say no to criminalizing more poor people and more citizens of this city who are just trying to get by. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Seeing no one else, commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Prado.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. Discussion. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you so much. I hear the concerns of community and trust and believe that we are concerned about that as well. However, as a form of government in an institution who has to look out for the benefit of all, there are decisions that have to be made that we may not always agree on. And when it comes to the safety, if someone were to get hurt in a construction zone, then we would be liable for millions and millions and millions. And then we would have another conversation about, well, why didn't you put this in place? So I just want to say, we hear your concerns. We understand it. We get it. We're in an inconvenient time within our community right now with the construction. It won't last forever. And so I just want to make sure that that is clear, that we hear when you come up here and you make your statements and you say things and you assume things about all of us up here because we're sitting here. That assumption is not fair and it is not just. So please know we all sit up here because we care and love this city very much. And we may not always agree, but know that we have the city's best interests at heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Prater?
Sure. I'll go. I appreciate everybody sharing their concerns about this, and I think it's very warranted to bring it up. But in the same regard that the concern about people have a higher propensity of enforcement, there's also a higher propensity if those individuals are more apt to be pedestrians or bike riders, that they could be injured in a work zone or a construction site as well. And so that's also something to think about. And one of the things that I'm quite confident we all took an oath to is the health and safety of this community, and that's something we take very seriously. So I will be supporting this.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Sure. One of our commenters brought up the OIR report, and if I recall correctly, we have addressed the issues of the OIR report, and those have been addressed. Our officers are aware, and we've added trainings, we've added so much since that report came out 4 years ago. So I don't think that that's a necessary no for me.
Any other discussion, commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you. Just to close out my thoughts on this, working construction, I understand how inherently dangerous those sites can be, and for that reason, I will be supporting this. But again, I just wanted to reiterate, the importance of us, having mindfulness in setting up these construction zones, and also in our enforcement. And I do believe that our public safety department does, will do the right thing. So,
appreciate it, Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. As we talk about the safety of our streets for our individuals and our community members during construction, it just brought to mind, I see a lot of runners on my street very early. 6:10 in the morning. And I happened to watch a young lady by herself. I don't think construction had started yet, but I could see her running in the dark right in the middle of a construction lane zone. And she doesn't know if she's going to, run into a hole, fall on something that's going to cut her, do bodily harm to the individual. I will support this just because we need to keep our community safe, we need to keep our residents safe, we need to keep the workers safe. And when you think about, as Commissioner Hoffman said, the lawsuits, that's funding that if we have ordinances like this in place to protect everyone within the work zones, that's more funding that we could use for something else. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Any other discussion, commissioners? Clerk Burnley, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Commissioner Praedel?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item H2. City Manager Risma.
Adoption of an ordinance to amend Section 22-19, impeding pedestrian or vehicular traffic.
Thank you, Manager Risma. Attorney Leal, same story on this one, correct?
No, Your Honor. If I may, may give a brief overview of what this ordinance is.
All right. Appreciate it.
There was discussion during the public comment, I think needs to kind of be, which is one of the purposes of this ordinance. But currently, the city has an ordinance that makes it a violation to impede pedestrian or vehicular passage on any city street, sidewalk, or public place within the community. With the creation, or I should say, the installation of bike lanes throughout the cities, there isn't any protection for bicycles traveling through the bicycle lanes. A bicycle under the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code is not considered a vehicle. So that is what's prompting for this particular provision to also include the impeding of bicycles that are traveling within the bicycle lanes. With that would provide them protection against any individuals who may be running or walking in the bicycle lanes. And then, as we heard from the gentleman in public comment, of vehicles actually parking in the bicycle lanes. And so this measure is something that we brought forward to address those situations, to allow, if this occurs, KDPS officers who do witness to provide a warning to the individuals who are actually impeding, in this case, bicycle traffic, and failure to heed that warning to stop impeding that bicycle traffic could result in an actual misdemeanor arrest or citation. So that is the purpose behind this amendment, is again for safety, to protect those individuals who are riding bikes in the bike lanes.
Thank you, Attorney Leal. Appreciate that clarification. Any questions for the attorney relative to his comments? Thank you, Commission. Is there anyone in the chambers that wants to comment on this item? It's item H2. Please come forward.
So I agree with this ordinance change. The only part that I don't agree with is the tends to could hinder impede. To me, it still makes it very vague, a vague ordinance. It turns it, and like I said, I mean, like I know the OIR report was three years ago, and that the recommendations that were made were, I would say, barely satisfied. So I read the report, but I'm talking about the underlying narratives that y'all missed when we're talking about, like, it says right here, they often lacked meaningful public outreach component and were not directly linked to addressing the 2013 study. As a result, even though reforms were undertaken by KDPS, many in Kalamazoo's community could highly say that as far as they were aware, no reform or report emerged from that 2000 study. Instead, we heard a range of opinions about the ways which KDPS is disconnected from its community, how its community relation efforts are inauthentic, and how limited understanding of diversity within the department's ranks is problematic. In short, the department's sense of its own progress in this area has has merit, but nonetheless does not necessarily resonate the wider community experience. So I'm just, this is coming from me. Like I try to avoid KDPS when I do outreach for this very reason, and I just can't convince you all about how the reality, the PR that gets done. And I spoke to the community liaison officer, Emil, and he just gave me PR. The reality is that they're harassing people. The disparities still exist when it comes to how they treat the community. It says, in turn, the experience of several people who we talked to about interacting with KDPS, a certain insularity and unease with transparency and reluctance to acknowledge even the possibility of fall. Okay, these are things that still have not been addressed. Yeah, we addressed the components of like the recommendations, but we didn't address the systemic issues, the systemic reason why KDPS is we should defund KDPS. So that's all. To me, it's problematic to make the language vague. That's all, because it gives KDPS too much power. And I think that all of you have well intentions. I just think the bureaucracy gets in the way. Okay, we are doing less than the bare minimum for people because we are more focused on developing downtown. And I want you all to put that lens of 0 to 40% AMI instead of the lens of what we can develop economically. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a comment on this particular ordinance? This is the opportunity to speak on this item.
Just one more, if I may. I think there's a perception on this that a lot of motorists are just confused and just confused driving in the bike lane or parking in the bike lane. In the last couple weekends, I've come downtown. I've seen 9 vehicles in the bike lane, and sometimes there's people still outside the car or inside the car. Sometimes they are confused. I've tried to politely say, "Excuse me, do you know you're driving in a bike lane?" One time a group got angry and said, "Well, no, it says right there I can park." And I said, "Well, no, actually the space is right next to you." They were genuinely confused. I get it. Sometimes it's confusing. I don't necessarily think that's an excuse, but most of the time, what they do is put their hand over their face and turn away from me, or pretend they can't see me or can't hear me. And that kind of tells me that they know exactly what they're doing. They're driving and parking in a bike lane, and they know they shouldn't be there. I guess I'm hearing about enforcement, and they can get a warning at first. I still don't know what that looks like. Is KDPS going to say, "Hey, you shouldn't be here"? They leave, come back the next day, the same officer has to see them? And then it becomes a misdemeanor? It just seems really vague to me that it's a warning and then it becomes a problem. I would just like to see, in other places, you're ticketed, you're towed. That's what happens in a big city. When I lived in a big city and I didn't understand what the signs meant, my car got towed. I'm not saying do that, but right now, I've gone to business owners and quietly said, "Hey, did you know your truck's out here?" Or I've tried to politely tell motorists, "Hey, you're impeding a bike lane." I watched 7 bikes go around, or 7 bicycles go around a car that was blocking the bike lane on Level the other day. So it's happening. I don't know what enforcement looks like. So thank you again.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to comment on this item? So seeing no one, then the recommended action is a motion to adopt the ordinance. Is there a motion? Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman, supported by Commissioner Cooney. Discussion, Commissioners. Commissioner Prado.
Sure. So right now, the existing ordinance has protections for pedestrian paths and motor vehicles. And so it makes sense that if we're going to be investing millions of dollars to create a biking infrastructure, that we would make sure that there were equal protections for those individuals as well. So I, again, will be supporting this. I do want to make sure to note, though, that we have 670 employees. A lot of those people drive around in city vehicles and trucks. And I think there is an inordinate burden on us to walk the walk as a municipality to make sure that our people and the people who work for us are respecting this ordinance that we're about to pass as well, because I have had reports from citizens in the past that have taken pictures or reported that there have been city vehicles in bike paths and that sort of thing. And so I just want to make sure if we're changing the law that we're making sure that our employees are well educated and understand that they too need to respect the ordinance change as well. So
thank you, Commissioner Prado. Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just had a thought about, if you talk about, Level and kind of the downtown areas, if we're wanting to keep these lanes free and we do want to educate our community some more, and I do agree, I believe that there should be a little bit more education on the bike lanes, because I've gotten behind people and I've gotten out of my car and I've ran and knocked on the window and be like, "Hey, did you know you're in a bike lane?" And you're right, they have no idea. They have no clue. But again, it could be people that are visiting. They're not used to being, they're turned around because of the construction. But maybe we could utilize or see how they would be open to working with us in this. And that would be the ambassadors that are already out downtown in the area walking all day. I know we have individuals, we had a great team that walks around, for the parking of the, they give the parking tickets, and they work a lot with people too. Sometimes they'll, give you a little, "Hey," a little whirly, "I'm leaving," and, they'll help you too. But I just think about other ways too that we can, you talk about, Commissioner Prado talk about the education too, is, how can we work with that team and the ambassadors to, if they see someone parking somewhere, just be like, "Hey," just a thought, more education, just, again, educating our employees and people that work for us and the staff and the team of how we can get more of that word out there. I'm just bringing up a thought. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. As you know, I do sit on the DDA, which is oversee the contract with the ambassadors, and I will most certainly pass that along. Thank you. Any other discussion? Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pradle?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item H3, City Manager Ritzma.
First reading of an ordinance to amend Section 4A-6, Social Districts in Commons Area to eliminate the sunset clause in subsection 4A-6K.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Is there a staff report on this item?
Yes, our business specialist, Jared Chambers, is going to be coming forward and providing a brief description of what this is all about. And our CPAC Director, Antonio Mitchell.
Director Mitchell, welcome.
Jared's backing me up. So good to see everyone again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, City Manager, and Attorney. So pretty much what's happening is we as the city are following the state's sunset initiative. We were at one point understanding that it was expiring. One of our commissioners pointed out we knew about it. We did additional research with the attorney's office and found out that the state of Michigan has sunset this initiative, and we're following suit to also have this change in our ordinance as well. The social district has been very popular. It's not only here in Kalamazoo, it's throughout the state of Michigan, and has been significantly economic impact for the state of Michigan in many cities and communities. And this was started back, I think, everyone when we was doing COVID-19. We couldn't have individuals in the closed spaces, so it expanded the ability to work with restaurants and entertainment venues to have outside spaces and have alcohol in those areas and be able to transport. This has been successful. We have 30 plus businesses in our social district that's taking advantage of this. We hope to grow that as we grow other restaurant and entertainment venues downtown, and this is one of those steps to assist in that process. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Director Mitchell. Questions for Director? All right, seeing none. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Now is the opportunity for anybody who is here in the chambers to comment on this item. Is anyone who wants to make a comment? Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to offer the ordinance for first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Wilson.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor House. Any discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, Clerk Borland, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney?
Yes.
Commissioner Decker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes.
Commissioner Pradle?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the regular agenda is what was formerly item G9. Manager Ritzma.
Approval of a 2-year contract with Gulls LLC for public safety uniforms in the amount of $263,869.60.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Is there anyone in the chambers that would like to make a comment on this item?
Thank you for the time, although I'm pretty sure I could be talking to the wall right now because I don't know how much difference it's going to make. But based on the impression that I've received from this commission, from this city, is that every tax dollar is just very, very important, right? There's a lot of people in serious need in the city right now. We just don't have the funds available. So every tax dollar is important. And so that's why whenever there's something up about the cops, a lot of us are really on the side of defund the police, right? But we can't defund the police when there's tasers. They need those tasers, right? We can't defund the police when we're putting up surveillance cameras to watch our citizens, right? They need those cameras. We can't defund the police when they're out on the streets harassing us or harassing the homeless, right? We can't defund them. They need those funds, right? But right now, they're asking for some new uniforms. But you know what? When people in the city of Kalamazoo need new uniforms, new clothes for work, new clothes for getting around, and they come to the city and say, I need some resources so I can get these things, and there's no resources available. You know what the mutual aid networks in the city of Kalamazoo do? We do donations. We collect donations, we collect different types of attire, right, and we organize to try to get those clothes to the people who need them in this community, right? And so my suggestion is that instead of giving the cops another $300,000, how about they go do a bake sale? Right? Go do a bake sale and collect donations, and then they can get their uniforms. I think that sounds like a fantastic idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment?
So we can give money to the police for uniforms. Why are we not funding mental health? Why do we only have one person or two people that can ride with them a week for 2 days, but we're going to give them money for a uniform? Why are we not putting that money towards mental health or something else that can help the unhoused or those that are in need that are dealing with mental health? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of mouths that could feed. They have their own paychecks. Why can't they buy their own uniforms? Why is the city buying their uniforms? Like, that's crazy. So mental health is more important than a uniform. They have uniforms. They don't need new ones.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? You can come up and sign in afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, hi. Nice to meet you all. This is my first time here. Thanks to Professor Cooney. I do want to just say, personally, I don't think there's a need to provide them with new uniform. I think until we get reformation in the police system, they do not deserve that from the community. I know one of the citizens also spoke about how, we have to do bake sales or donations and nonprofit to provide for the community of those who don't have or with less than. I think that can be the case now. Until then, they can come up with their own money. But that's all I really had to say, and thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? Formerly G9.
Yeah, I agree. This money could be better used. They have a budget for a reason. I think when the budget was made, they should have considered adding this to the budget. I think this money could be used for better things. And I think that this city spends the money like, it just seems like just small things add up, small little things that are not meaningful and impactful. And it is really easy for KDPS to get everything that they want, surveillance, tasers, right, uniforms, all of this, and like the community is struggling. And I want you all to know that the reason why we're here is because we're a collective voice. I would rather not be here some weeks, right, but I work in the community, and every week I hear the horror stories, and every day I hear what KDPS is doing, and every day I hear what the inaction or not enough action, okay? And like, I know it could sound like it's personal, but it's really not. I'm really talking about the systemic issues here. And I would like to work with all of you because the community, we're here because we care, and the community cares too. Some people work 2 or 3 jobs. We're here looking at the statistics just like you are. We're here looking at the reports just like you are. But we have a different lens. We have a different lived experience. experience maybe. Maybe you all aren't as plugged in, but KDPS does not need this money if they have the budget. And we need to really consider what lenses we are using to see where the funds are being appropriated. Because to me, it's a waste of money. And there's a lot of things that I consider a waste of money. We're talking about this, and really KDPS has a robust budget for this. They got ARPA money. They've gotten, I've seen, basically in most of the general budgets, I've seen some money allocated. Like they allocated ARPA funds for a league. Was it a baseball league or some program like that for KDPS? I mean, that money could have just gone for uniforms, things that when you say you're on a tight budget that you need to, focus on purchasing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to adopt, to approve the 2-year contract. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Hess.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Pradel. Discussion, Commissioners. All right, seeing none, Clerk Bordelon, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The contract is approved. City Manager Ritzma, next item.
Approval of the 2024 Economic Development Strategy.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the chambers who would like to comment on this item? This is now regular agenda item 5, was formerly consent agenda item G16.
Yes, hello, it's me again. Yes, I was saying earlier that statistics prove that the BIPOC community is being left behind, that it's really colorblind, racist to think like the financial literacy right part. When we need more robust investment in reparations, Kalamazoo historically was a sundown town. That's how bad it is in Kalamazoo. That is the wealth gap that exists, that if we turn a blind eye and think that we can string people along through entrepreneurship and literacy, that's going to solve the problem, and we need to have an active anti-racist lens to be able to solve this problem, and to realize that some of the administration is does not have the Black, Brown, Indigenous community at heart, and they're predominantly white. The report continues, cities that are ahead on the curve in ensuring people of all income levels find suitable homes, prevents displacement, etc. There is currently little to no options for housing at the 40 below area median income. What active steps is the city taking to address the slumlords? Also, building more housing is killing the environment. I encourage you all to really look into this and make sure that our mature spaces are not being destroyed. In the section 4.4 and 4.5, it says, we don't see how the city is working. It's talking about the multifaceted affordable housing crisis and the access to shelters. The $5 million for a shelter that is going to be filled by one worker's caseload is going to do the bare minimum. Please do not cross your arms and think that is enough. It is getting cold. And we see this pattern every time where the city throws money to projects. I love it. I'm not discouraging you all to do these projects. I promise I'm not discouraging you. I just want you to understand that we need that program times 10, and we need you all not to cross your arms when it gets cold and think that is enough, that you all represent that. Some of you are not even involved in that program, but you're all taking credit for it. Please take credit for it if you need to, but do something about the cold. It's coming, okay? This, like I said, this report is the lens for downtown. Do not leave the rest of the communities outside the outskirts behind, because that is what's happening. I love all the stuff that it says about, wealth building, all this stuff, but it's not real. This report is very disconnected from the horror stories, the horror housing stories, the Alice statistics, the community who cannot afford to shop downtown is the Alice community. We are on a bare bones budget, living paycheck to paycheck. What access do we have?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is approval, motion to approve the 2024 Economic Development Strategy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Cooney.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Decker. Discussion, Commissioners. Commissioner Cooney.
Mayor, what I'm encouraged by is how we're going to judge whether this is successful. And I'm reading here the metrics. The number of jobs added with wages above the living wage. Reduction of the poverty rate and ALICE rate in the city. The number of child care facilities in the city. The number of new housing units. And what I would add to that, as I mentioned earlier, was social mobility of our youth. If this is how we're going to measure whether our economic system is working, I'm all for it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Any other discussion? Commissioner Prado.
Sure. Encourage the public to watch the committee of the whole meeting from earlier, but one of the things that the report does talk about is that it's an admission that economic development of the past in the past decades was all about just creating job numbers, just about like how much economic investment you're bringing into the community. Like Commissioner Cooney is talking about, you see things in the report that say, no, let's talk about the number of jobs created with a livable wage. Let's talk about the number of housing units that are being created, how much child care opportunities there are for the community. We heard our consultants talk about a much smaller community with like 4,000 residents that had something like 30-some child care facilities in it. We need to aspire to that, but we need to also make sure that we're measuring that. And so what I see is an accountability mechanism that we're looking to and can guide us to make sure that we are creating a truly more economic development, equitable strategy for our community that's more along the lines of what 2024 should be. It talks about, there's a quote that we talked about in the committee of the whole meeting, but it really encompasses a lot of the work that it's trying to set out to do. Equitable economic development is achieved when every member of the community is able to share and benefit from the economic growth. The reality is like the commenters were saying, for decades, we have not seen a change in poverty level. We have not seen a change in children who are living in poverty. This is an opportunity for us to finally make sure that we're moving those metrics that we have failed to do for decades. And so you're right. It's not going to entirely focus on every single strategy that's just focused on a person who's trying to start a business for the first time, but it's doing a lot of that in this plan. And I think we'll see, maybe for the first time, see some change that's happening in the next few years in the next decade.
Thank you, Commissioner Prado. Other discussion? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to say that, reading over this and, listening to the presentation at the Committee of the Whole, I think and I believe that this strategy is going to create and enhance the economic structure of our city. That's going to support waves of progress for many, many years, as you said, Commissioner Prado, down the line. We brought in Camoin, I think it is how you say that, and, they did what they do. They're helping us engage in creative solutions to encourage prosperity within the city. And, we don't know it all. And, sometimes we do have to go to outside individuals, which is great because, we're showing our humility to say we don't know everything. So bringing them in and saying, hey, this is what we see from an outside individual looking into our city. This is what I see. This is what I see. This is what I see. We're going to be able to start to solve problems. And, I believe it's a strategic way to overcome many barriers that have been set forth before. It may take some time. Yes, everything's not going to be perfect. We all know that. But we have a plan and a strategy that we can reach towards. And as Commissioner Cooney said, we have ways to measure that. And we've got great organizations and great institutions that do this work on a day-by-day basis on grabbing these numbers. And now, since we know what we're striving for, especially when it comes to this, we're going to have some great data to go back to. And as everybody says, data is key. And that's what we need. I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you. I also just want to be very quick and say This is the first time that I've ever seen an economic development strategy that was intentional in including housing. That in itself says that we're moving in the right direction. It's not just about downtown and the money. It feels like that. It sometimes sounds like that. But you have people up here who are committed to ensuring that our core neighborhoods specifically get what they need. And not only what they need, but what they deserve because of the underinvestment for decades. So with that, having this strategy and housing being in it, I will be supporting.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Other discussion? Colleagues? All right, seeing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker.
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The 2024 Economic Development Strategy is approved. Manager Ritzma, you have a report.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'm actually very happy that I can provide the report at 8:45 instead of 11:30. So I actually have some good things to talk about.
All right.
I want to highlight some things going on in our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department. First, our DEI specialist, Law Thongay, will finish her Leadership Kalamazoo program on October 15th, so love to see that. And our director, Tanya Hewitt-Smith, was accepted to a women's leadership program from the Michigan Municipal League that provides women leaders with development opportunities and a strong community network. Last week, I got the opportunity to welcome and kick off the formation of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council within the city. So this group of 13 members, cross-departmental, are going to help the DEI office operationalize DEI in our organization. So they've gone through training last week with Life Journeys consultants, and they'll be holding 2 more virtual training sessions. So I look forward to all the work that council will do and support we can give them in, like I said, working and operationalizing DEI in our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma. Now is the opportunity for commissioner comments. Is there anyone who wants to start this off with commissioner comments this evening? Commissioner Decker.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one thing that I wanted to let the community know about, which is something that I just learned about as we've been talking about our sustainability programs here. Doing some research on more sustainability here within the city of Kalamazoo, I ran across something on the city website called Forever Where Works for Business. And what this is basically you pay $5 you go to an establishment, you pay $5 for a container, and then when you bring it back, basically you just bring it back. It's just recycling. You're not going home with plastic, you're not going home with styrofoam, or it may be plastic, you're going home with styrofoam. I feel like, am I saying something wrong, Vice Mayor Hess? Please correct me. Should this not be here on the city page or what?
It needs to be removed from the city page.
Oh, well then, you know what? I apologize for that. So hopefully we can get that removed then. So I have nothing further to say. I thought I was educating our community on something great.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. An admirable effort it was. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you so much. I have 2 things. I received a phone call from a resident who was having water issues. And she went through our process of calling 311, did all her due diligence, and yet still could not get her water. And I just want to, we're always hyping up Jim and his team, but I have to say, like, you all do good work. My friend she was offering to pay them to come out to do it. And then she tried to feed them, and they were like, no, this is our job. And so I just want you to know that she was very appreciative. I was appreciative that you answered my call. And the other thing I just wanted to lift up, I had the chance to go to Chaplain Marcus May's Celebration of Life. It was beautiful. The things that everyone said, family, friends, everyone, he was a phenomenal human being. And what we saw and what we got and received here was genuine. And so I just I know he's chilling somewhere, cracking jokes, and messing with folk, but I just needed to lift him up this evening.
Amen. Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have three things. First of all, I want to congratulate El Concilio, formerly the Hispanic American Council, with the opening of the beautiful new center. Well-deserved, long time coming, great. Secondly, next week, next Monday, some people will be celebrating Columbus Day. But I would remind people that in the city of Kalamazoo, we do not celebrate Columbus Day. We celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day and honor the first settlers and their culture and all that they did to develop this area. And the third thing is, this is the first anniversary of the killing in Israel. And I want to speak out to condemn the terrible violence that the Israeli people experienced a year ago. I want to speak out more forcefully about the disproportionate response that has happened over the past year. There'll be people who say, well, look, that's not your job to speak out on that. I'm reminded what Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I'm reminded also what he said when he spoke out against the war in Vietnam, quoting Dante, that Dante said that the hottest places in hell are saved for those who in a time of crisis did nothing. So I have to speak out. The money that is being used to kill more than 47,000 people, most of them civilians, the children that have lost their limbs, the hospitals and the schools that have been destroyed, the total infrastructure of that country, and done with weapons that are produced in the United States. I want to raise my voice to say, no more bombs. Stop the killing. Yesterday, France said they will no longer send weapons to Israel. We should do the same in this country.
Thank you, Commissioner Cooney. Commissioner Pradle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too had a chance to attend El Concilio's grand opening. That facility is spectacular. If you ever get a chance to check it out, beautiful artwork, new children's center facility. It's exciting to see a well-deserved space that organization deserves, and I'm excited to see what they'll do with it. Also wanted to just take a moment to just remind folks that are watching, we are coming to the end of construction season. Thank you to everybody for your patience through a very intense construction season. But I just want to remind everyone that there are a number of small businesses and people who have put everything on the line to keep their businesses alive and well. And I just hope we can all do what we can to go out of our way, get back on the paths that we used to do before to support, especially our local grocery stores. We know those are far between to have in the city, and we have some spectacular local grocers that are great to our community and support us, and so I hope we continue to support them. So we got retailers at the Oakwood Plaza that need some help and some love, whether it's getting a little ice cream or you get into a little Lego figure or something. There's lots of ways to support there, whether it be the Midtown Fresh Plaza and supporting those folks and making sure we can keep those people alive and well, and Park and Ransom and the folks over in that corridor as well, just to make sure that they have some support and love too. We got to make sure that they feel our love, and especially as we're still in construction and as we finish. I'm probably going to get myself in trouble for what I'm about to say, but some things are worth speaking up sometimes. I know there's a lot of areas that we all can improve on and as a city. But as long as I'm in the seat, I'm going to make sure that every person that works at the city, whether it be the person who's the security guard at the front, whether it be somebody who's in Parks and Rec who's going to clean our parks, or whether it be somebody in public services who's digging up a water main, has every resource and tool they need to be successful and safe in their job. And so, I certainly understand from listening from community, people who are here tonight that have concerns about putting money in a department they may feel like they want to see grow or change. But, when you look at the reason that what we need to buy new uniforms is because those jobs are jobs where, they are out in the field getting dirty, having their uniforms tattered because they're doing the work for the people, responding to car accidents, responding to fires. And so, I'm absolutely going to support things that are already budgeted, which it's budgeted, to support and make sure that our people, the 670 plus people, have the tools they need to be successful in their work here. So that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. And thank you for that, Commissioner Pradel. And Commissioner Cooney, thank you for your comments. This is a human tragedy. It's a human tragedy. And we have to continue to speak and figure this out. We have to figure this out as a nation. I just wanted to say that, yes, I will always support our city employees, whoever they are. I was able to attend a Pastors on Patrol meeting with our officers last week. And as it said in our economic development strategy that we just approved, Kalamazoo needs to be perceived as safer. What I know from these men and women that are doing the work in the community and on the streets is that Kalamazoo's safety is their priority. And I just wanted to say that while I'm inspired by their work and their genuine care for the people of the city, look this week for an exciting announcement from the Pastors on Patrol and KDPS partnership that's going to make Kalamazoo even safer. I'm very excited about this, and I think it's going to be a game changer in Kalamazoo. This is not only reactive, but proactive work done by our public safety officers and department. So let's keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other comments? Thank you so much. I do want to just follow up a bit on that, talking about safety. It was at our last meeting where we had a group of citizens that came in that had concerns about their neighborhood and wanted to ask for help. And I do want to recognize that the team from Public Safety met with residents of that neighborhood, are already working on a strategy of really work together to come up with a couple immediate things that can be done. And I really appreciate that responsiveness, and you are right. Everyone deserves a safe neighborhood to live in. And this is one piece of how we can ensure that to happen, one piece of that. So thank you, Public Safety, for that. I don't like to get into the weeds on this too much. We talk about housing, but I just wanted to say a couple things about housing. Tonight, obviously, it came up relative to many other things that were going on. And often when we are talking about housing, obviously we have great concern for developing housing that is affordable for people who are making 50% of area median income or less. Sometimes our focus is even lower income, 30%. And I just want to remind all of us that, totally rounding numbers off here, developing new housing units on average cost between $250,000 and $300,000 per unit. And so the question might be, how can you develop housing ultimately that's affordable for people who don't have income to pay a market rent? So I just want to say a few things about that. There is only one way that you can develop housing that is ultimately going to be affordable, and that is that the capital investment that goes into creating that housing, which is generally speaking borrowed money, that can't be present. That capital investment has to be absent borrowed funds for the most part, because that is a huge component of the operating cost of a piece of property is paying the mortgage back. So you have to start with that, is that money that is the capital money to create housing needs to not be borrowed money, so it has to be paid back. And there are very, very few sources of non-borrowed capital investment, and when you're thinking in terms of 250 minimum per unit, you're talking about 4 units for every $1 million. That's really not to scale. Low-income housing tax credits is one of the major sources of that non-borrowed money. So there's that. First, that's what you have to start with. You've got to have your capital investment being money that you do not have to pay back. Secondly, unfortunately, even if you take the mortgage away, individuals who are at 40% of AMI or 30% of AMI, the affordable rent to that individual is not sufficient to pay the operating costs of the property, even absent a mortgage to pay back. Unfortunately, that's the case, that affordable rent is insufficient to pay the operating costs. So that means there's only one way that affordable housing can be created for people who are low or very low income, and that is if the rents to the property owner, manager, are subsidized. The tenant rents are subsidized, so the tenant can pay an affordable rent, but there's still a gap between that and the operating cost, and that can be subsidized. And there's really basically 3 ways to do that, to get that subsidy. One, vouchers, using vouchers. Well, we happen to know right now that the state of Michigan has completely cut off all vouchers for the entire state. That means that is not available right now. That is the classic way that taking those vouchers and assigning them to a property, which is one method of doing it, that's not available right now. And probably, according to MSHDA, Michigan State Housing Development Authority, will not be available at least until next April or May. That's what we hear. There are 2 other ways to create subsidies, and one of them is creating a sinking fund. In other words, that's raising a great deal of money, which you can just put in the bank account, and over the course of time, you pull some of it out to subsidize that rent. We have a model that is being developed like that right now in Kalamazoo. That's the project that Mount Zion's working on. There's a sinking fund, which is going to be funded, which is going to be there to provide that tenant rent subsidy. Of course, unlike what we're hoping for the FFE, that sinking fund does not last in perpetuity. That sinking fund is diminished over time, but it still accomplishes the goal of subsidizing those rents so the property can be maintained and managed. And when it's time for fixing a plumbing leak or plowing the parking lot, there's money for that in the operating. And the only other way that this is done, vouchers, a sinking fund, is a different model. And that model is in a mixed income kind of property where you are collecting a significant amount of market rate rents or 80% rents, and those rents that create more revenue than what you just need to cover your operating expenses, that money is actually used then to subsidize the insufficiency of the rent for the more affordable units. So we actually have a model like that in Kalamazoo, and that's the Harrison Circle property that's on the roundabout over there. There are market rents in that property and 80% of AMI rents, and those rents literally within the property are what help subsidize the rents that are paying insufficient rent to cover the cost. So we could talk about housing, and obviously it's a bit easier to create housing with less affordability because you got a mortgage to pay back, you've got your operating costs. That's why you're seeing the majority of the housing that's getting created is not deeply affordable for a variety of reasons here. So I think strategically, we still have to keep thinking about how we can accomplish the affordability piece and what that looks like, and assisting developers to think about what mechanisms are available to assist us, and also to do the best job we can to make sure that our own local low-income housing tax credit applications are successful and receive those awards competitively. We have right down here on Rose Street, right, we have a property being built right now, which is getting close to completion, which is a low-income housing tax credit property. So once again, that will provide some much deeper affordability than just a standard kind of a project. That, we assisted that project, fill a gap there. That one is going to be for seniors. Well, Zion one's for seniors as well. So we just have to look at the projects that are coming along, work with our local developers, help make sure that they can be successful in getting their awards. I'll stop talking about it. I can talk about housing a lot. We get a chance to talk about housing with each other off the dais here, but appreciate everybody listening for a moment. I love you, Kalamazoo. We're adjourned.